crowd roared under the blinding studio lights as Michael Carter took his place on the Family Feud stage, the heat of the lamps painting a faint shimmer across his forehead, while a nervous excitement stirred in his chest. The podium beneath his hands felt cool and solid, grounding him in the midst of all the energy swirling around. His wife, Nana, stood beside him, her soft hand brushing his arm. Just one touch and the years of chaos, coaching, and family life seemed to center. Their 3 children, Jasmine, Darius, and Trey, formed a proud line next to them, all dressed in matching navy blue shirts embroidered with Carter family. For a moment, it didn't matter that millions might be watching, or that his voice might crack when the host called his name. What mattered was that his family was here laughing, alive and together. The host, a magnetic man whose booming charm could fill any room, stepped forward with a smile that belonged to showbiz itself. "Give it up for the Carter family from Detroit, Michigan," he announced, and the studio erupted. Michael grinned, waving modestly, his coach's posture straight as a whistle. He'd spent nearly 3 decades teaching high school basketball in Detroit, molding boys into men, building discipline from sweat and teamwork. But under these lights, with cameras trained on every twitch of his expression, even the man who never blinked in a championship game felt a flicker of unease. Still, this wasn't about nerves or points. This was family, fun, and a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make a memory. He couldn't have imagined the secret waiting behind the curtain, the one that would soon turn his world inside out. The game began with laughter, easy jokes, the familiar rhythm of competition filling the air. When asked to introduce himself, Michael lifted his chin proudly. "I'm a high school basketball coach. Been leading Cass Tech for 27 years now. For me, the game's not just about winning. It's about teaching life. You learn teamwork, discipline, how to rise after a loss." The host nodded with admiration. "Sounds like you've built more than just players, coach." Michael smiled modestly. "I like to think so." Nana chuckled softly when the host turned to her. "And what's life like being married to the Coach Carter of Detroit?" "It's like living courtside," she teased. "Practice schedules, bus rides, Friday night lights. But he's got a heart bigger than his playbook, so I wouldn't trade it for anything." The crowd laughed, and even Michael cracked up, his hand reaching for hers. Then came the introductions of the kids, each following their parents' path of service. Jasmine, a middle school counselor helping teens navigate life's crossovers. Darius, a physical therapist for injured athletes. Trey, a young PE teacher shaping the next generation. Michael's voice softened as he explained, "My parents raised me that way. Serve others, stay humble, do right. My dad worked the post office his whole life. Mom was a nurse. They taught me purpose." He paused a beat. "I owe everything to them." The host smiled, but before moving on, asked gently, "And they're still around, Coach?" Michael hesitated, then said softly, "They passed some years back, but they'll always be home to me. I was adopted when I was 7, and they made sure I never felt different. Said I was chosen." The audience grew quiet, drawn in. "Ever wonder about your birth family?" the host asked, his voice dropping to a human warmth that cut through the stage lights. Michael shrugged lightly, the hint of a wistful smile tugging at him. "Sometimes, not in a sad way, just curiosity. You look in the mirror and wonder whose eyes those are." The audience murmured sympathetically. Beside him, Jasmine's expression shifted, something between excitement and nerves. "Dad," she began softly, her voice trembling. "Remember that DNA test I got you for your birthday last year?" He chuckled. "Yeah, that little ancestry thing. You trying to prove we got royalty in the bloodline?" She laughed through tears. "Well, something even crazier came up. The results found a match. Not just a cousin or a long-lost relative, Dad. It found a twin." The laughter evaporated. Michael froze, his brow furrowing. "A twin?" The word barely escaped his lips. The audience collectively inhaled. Nana grasped his hand tighter as Jasmine continued. "An identical twin, Dad, born the same day. Same hospital, separated after birth. For a heartbeat, time stopped. The noise, the cameras, even the lights seemed to fade. All that existed was that word echoing in his mind, twin. He felt something ancient stir inside him, like a puzzle piece snapping into place after 52 years of silence. His breath trembled. "A twin?" he repeated, softer now. The host placed a hand on his shoulder. "Michael, your brother's name is Marcus Thompson. He's from Cleveland. He's been looking for you too." Michael's jaw slackened. tears already pooling as the host turned toward the stage entrance. And he's here. The audience gasped as the double doors swung open, white light flooding through like the heavens themselves had parted. Out stepped a man who could have been Michael's reflection. The same broad shoulders, same familiar mustache, even the same spark in the eyes. Marcus froze mid-step, his chest rising and falling as he met Michael's stare. Neither moved at first. The crowd hushed. Then Michael whispered, barely audible, "That's me." His feet carried him forward before his mind caught up. Marcus did the same, and when they finally met in the center of the stage, the years shattered between them. They grabbed each other, two halves of the same soul, and held on like the earth itself might disappear. The audience erupted, people standing, clapping, some wiping tears. The host turned away for a second, his voice cracking when he finally said, "Ladies and gentlemen, after 52 years, these brothers are together again." They stayed locked for what felt like forever, shoulders shaking as they wept. When they finally pulled back, their faces were streaked with tears but glowing with the kind of joy that can't be rehearsed. "Man," Marcus said through a half laugh, "you look good for 52. Michael wiped his face and managed a grin. "Guess good genes run deep." The crowd laughed, the tension breaking into applause again. They sat down on the edge of the stage, microphones forgotten. The host gently guided them into telling their stories. Marcus's voice quivered at first, but he steadied. "My daughter Alicia gave me that same DNA kit for fun. She wanted to know if we had any African roots or something. I did the test, forgot about it. Then one day she's running into the kitchen shouting about a perfect match. I thought she meant some website glitch. But then she said, 'Dad, it says you've got a twin.' I couldn't believe it." Weeks later, I get a message from Jasmine. She says her dad's name is Michael Carter, born the same day as me. We compared details and boom, it all lined up. The audience listened in awe. The host leaned in. "So both of you coaches?" Marcus nodded. "Yep, John Adams High in Cleveland. 26 years. State championship just like him." Michael chuckled through disbelief. "You serious?" Marcus laughed. "Even proposed to my wife in December, same as you. First kid at 26? Exactly." The crowd went wild again, laughing and crying all at once. The host smiled, shaking his head. It's like the universe hit copy and paste. They started swapping stories, realizing they both loved their coffee black, read the sports page first every morning, tapped door frames twice for luck before walking through, and shared the same irrational fear of heights. Every new similarity drew more laughter, more tears. Behind them, Nina and Teresa, Marcus's wife, met for the first time, hugging like sisters. Their children, 6 in all, huddled together, marveling at the uncanny resemblance between their fathers. The host finally asked, "Do you ever wonder why you were separated?" Marcus nodded, sadness flickering through his smile. Back in the 70s, some agencies split twins because they thought it'd help placements, like they'd each get a better chance at a family. I guess they didn't understand what they were breaking. Michael's hand found his brother's shoulder. "Doesn't matter now. We found each other." The host nodded, swallowing emotion. The show had long since stopped being about games or prizes. This was something else, something raw and real. The brothers shared a moment of silence, just staring, studying each other's faces like looking into time itself. Then Michael spoke softly. "You ever feel it back then? Like something was missing?" Marcus smiled through his tears. "Every day. It was like walking around half alive." Michael nodded. "Me too, but not anymore." The studio fell silent again, the kind of silence that hums with meaning. The host finally spoke, his voice thick. "This right here, that's what family's about. It's not blood or paperwork. It's connection. It's love that waits no matter how long." The audience broke into applause once more. After the show ended, the cameras stopped, but the story didn't. Later that evening, in a quiet restaurant corner lit with warm gold, the two brothers sat across from each other, plates untouched, still studying every expression and line like they couldn't believe this was real. They shared stories about their childhoods, different homes but same lessons, same kind of parents who worked too hard, loved too much, and always said grace before dinner. They talked about games they'd coached, the students who became family, the triumphs and heartbreaks that mirrored each other's lives unknowingly. When the conversation finally lulled, Marcus reached across the table and said softly, "We didn't lose 52 years, Mike. We just found forever." Michael nodded, his eyes glistening again. "Guess we've both been playing the longest overtime in history." They laughed, clinking glasses of sweet tea, and in that laughter something healed. A lifetime of wondering finally had an answer. The next morning the world woke up to headlines calling it the most emotional Family Feud episode ever. But for Michael and Marcus, it wasn't about fame or TV. It was about two boys finally being whole again. They went back to their lives, different cities, same hearts, but called each other every day. Holidays became shared. Grandkids grew up with double the grandparents, and two families became one. Sometimes, when Michael coached a game and the gym buzzed with energy, he'd glance at the bleachers where Marcus sat, cheering just as loud, and think how strange and beautiful life could be. Fate had kept them apart for half a century, but love, quiet, patient, unyielding, had led them home. And if you ever asked Michael what that moment on stage felt like, he'd tell you it was like hearing his own heartbeat for the first time, finally echoing back from across the years.